Have you ever had the experience of listening to someone speaking when you understand the individual words, but you don't understand what the person is saying by how they choose to combine those words? It's an interesting phenomenon, isn't it? Hello, I'm Janice, presentation skills trainer and coach based in Madrid. And in this video, I want to share with you my favorite tips for speaking in public with clarity and conciseness. I would say the most useful advice for clear speaking, whether you're speaking in your native language or not, is the same. Keep it simple. This is really good news for non-native speakers of English, and consequently, I'm always telling my clients, you don't need to use sophisticated vocabulary. But apart from keeping it simple, what else can you do to make sure you speak clearly and concisely, and that your listener hears your message exactly as you intended? Here are 6 tips for you. Number 1, state your main point up front. You may hear this referred to as bluff, B-L-U-F, bottom line up front. People have short attention spans and they want to know straight away if what you're about to say or present is relevant to them. Don't create a situation where your listeners are saying to themselves, oh, so what's the point? Number 2, speak in your audience's language. Just because you're very familiar with your industry-specific terminology doesn't mean that everyone else is. We tend to think that others understand our jargon, technical vocabulary, more than they actually do. And people generally won't admit when they don't understand the words or phrases that you're using. Explain concepts in terms that everyone can understand. Remember, it's not about dumbing down your message, it's about making it accessible and understandable to everybody. Number 3, emphasize key words. Every conversation or presentation has certain words or phrases that are crucial to the message. To make these key words memorable, emphasize them. This can be done by adjusting your tone of voice, its volume, or even pausing before or after the word. This technique can get the listener's attention and help to reinforce your point. Tip number 4, enunciate well. If you're speaking in English and it isn't your native language, your listeners may not understand you because you're not pronouncing some words correctly or you're not enunciating well, opening your mouth. Make sure you pronounce the ends of words clearly. That's an area where non-native English speakers tend to fall down. And speak at a pace where you're comfortable pronouncing all the words. Number 5, use the what, so what, now what framework. Breaking your communication down into these 3 components can make your message more structured and impactful. The what is where you state the topic or problem up front. So what is about explaining how and where the topic is important for your listener. And now what is where we suggest a course of action or explain next steps. And my final tip, number 6, avoid upspeak. This relates to intonation or inflection. A statement should end with a downward inflection. Questions have a rising inflection at the end. I've just spoken those 2 sentences with a downward inflection because they're both statements. Upspeak is when you use a rising intonation at the end of a statement. For example, upspeak is when you use a rising intonation at the end of a statement. Did you hear the difference? When you use upspeak a lot, you can sound as though you're not sure of what you're saying, that you're doubting yourself. And in professional settings, of course, it's essential to sound confident and assertive. So avoid upspeak. By using a downward inflection at the end of your statement, you'll come across as more confident and credible. So those are my 6 tips for speaking clearly and concisely. State your main point up front, speak in your audience's language, forget the jargon, emphasize key words, enunciate well, use the what, so what, now what technique, and avoid upspeak. Like all aspects of communication, being able to speak clearly and concisely is an ongoing learning journey, and I encourage you to keep going on your journey. What other tips and techniques would you recommend for speaking clearly and concisely? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.